Okay, SVG, some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have. What is it exactly? So it's a vector graphics markup language which originally came about as an XML format markup language. But nowadays you can actually use it directly inline in HTML5. It's good for a few different kinds of things. I've got a few different use cases there for what SVG is useful for. Publishing static diagrams on the web, some decorative uses from CSS, so if you want a background image that scales nicely when you zoom in on your touch device, and for making interactive graphical applications. Can you use it yet? Well, after many, many years, I would say yes, you finally can, because all modern browsers actually implement SVG nowadays. Now, you probably need to check for some specifics for particular kinds of features, whether they're implemented in your browser or not. But on the whole, yes, you can use it. If you're worried about old IEs, then SVG Web is a really great shim for adding SVG support to Internet Explorer. So what I'd like to show you today is we'll just build up a little interactive SVG example using my very poor design skills here, even though I'm kind of a graphics guy. So we'll make a little game here where you need to rearrange some coloured circles on the screen and order them in rainbow order, which is a fascinating game, I'm sure, for you. But here we go. Let's dive into the code. So here we have an HTML document, which is it cut off on the left there? Slightly, maybe? It'll do. So it's a basic HTML document, HTML5 document, and you can see here in the middle an empty SVG element. So on the page, if you have a look at what that looks like, we've got a big empty gap there at the top and a paragraph underneath it. So let's stick some content in there now. Let's put a rectangle and some text. So we'll put a blue background on the page and a text for the title of the game. Have a look what that looks like. There we go. So you can see I've used a rect element here to draw a rectangle on the background with a particular fill colour and some text there just positioned at a particular position. Now, of course, we also need our circles in our little game. So here we are, we have 7 circle elements. So the CX and CY attributes that you see there, they give the centre point for each of the circles, and R is the radius. And you can see the different fill colours for the lovely rainbow colours there. And I've got these 7 circle elements inside a G. A G is a group element. It's kind of like a div in the SVG world, where you can put some common styling attributes on them. So you can see that all the circles are going to have a black stroke and will have a little cursor when you move over them. Let's try that. Circles, cursor when you move over them. Now imagine if you had to do that in Canvas, where you're changing the cursor when you move over certain parts of the canvas. It's going to be quite difficult because you're going to have to do some hit detection and things yourself. So SVG will handle that for you because it's all there in the document. All right, next. Let's put a button down the bottom right-hand corner there that you click when you think you've got the rainbow in the right order. And because this is SVG inside HTML, you can also have HTML inside your SVG content. And the way you do that is you use a foreign object element and you give a little area of the SVG canvas with the X, Y width height there. And we're just using a normal HTML button. There's our HTML button in the bottom right there. And what's next? So we'll have it when you win the game. Let's display a fancy rainbow. I'll show you what this looks like first. So that's what we'll do. So this rainbow is actually made up of 7 ellipses, which are all centered around the bottom right corner of the SVG canvas there with sort of thick strokes with different colors. Kind of a cheap way to get a rainbow. So you can see the markup for it there. Now what we're going to do is, because we don't want to display that straight away, let's set it to opacity 0 because we don't want to win straight away. And what we're going to do actually is use CSS transitions to fade that in once we detect the winning condition and set the opacity to 1. So you can see here using CSS transitions along with your SVG content. Okay, and finally what we'll need is the actual JavaScript to do the interactive behaviour. Now I've prepared that earlier in a separate file here. First thing we've got to do actually is randomise the colours because you don't want to start off in your winning condition. So that's pretty simple. We've got our array of colours here. We take that array, make a copy of it, sort them randomly, and then we grab out all the circle elements from the document. And this is, if you note here, this is using this get elements by tag name, which you'll probably be familiar with normal HTML DOM programming. So that's kind of the point I want to bring to bear here is that all the normal DOM core stuff that you do with your HTML documents, you can do with SVG documents as well. And you can see here in the loop here where we set all of the styles of the circles to set them to the random colors. We use the normal dot style here that you can do on HTML elements as well. So if we reload the page, we've got our random colors. Fancy. Now we're actually going to be able to move those around the page as well. So here's a bit of code here which handles the dragging of the circles. And is that well, it's one page worth, but it's not too complicated. We set up some mouse move, mouse down, mouse up event handlers right at the bottom. And the important part of it here is right in the middle here. When you're moving the mouse, we're just using the normal set attribute method call from DOM core to set the CX and CY attributes that we saw earlier on the circles to the position that you get from the event. So you can see, we can move the circle around. So pretty simple to do drag and drop there in SVG as well. Finally, what we've got to do is actually check to see if you've got the things in the right order. So that's basically just taking your array of circles, sorting them by their CX attributes. You can see a little sorting function I've written there up the top. Turn them into whatever fill we've got on each of those elements, and compare that array with our initial colours array. And if the two arrays are equal, then we just set the opacity on that rainbow element, which was this one back here. So if I get it right, let's see if I can remember my rainbow, which I should do after spending 2 days doing this. Orange, yellow, green. Oh, it's actually right. Yay! Winner! So basically, what I just wanted you to take away from this is that SVG is a technology that's been around for a while. If you'd like to experiment with it, it's actually not that hard. If you learn a few of the graphical primitives from the language, and if you know your JavaScript and DOM scripting from your HTML world, then you can make some interactive graphical pages too. So how about you give it a go?